Happy Tuesday, Cal. It's been a great weekend of Premier League football, especially if you're a Spurs fan. Um, Huge game at the weekend, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a few minutes. We'll also be looking at some of our Premier League results, be looking at some of them refereeing decisions. I know you're not happy with one of them. We'll be looking at all of those transfer news, and we'll finally get a centre defensive midfielder that they're crying out for. And we'll look at some of the big games coming up the weekend as well. Obviously, got Newcastle, Liverpool probably being the feature game. Callum, how are you?
All good, lad. I was out on Saturday as well. I enjoyed the football, like, so loads to talk about as well. No doubt.
A
Sorry,
lot
no
to
doubt.
get through, and not enough time. So we'll get straight into it. The big game of the weekend past was billed as Tottenham against Man United. I suppose, look, when the fixtures came out, probably people thought that this was going to be a very tough game for Spurs. First home game under the new manager. But I think a lot of confidence was took from that Spurs result at Brentford. They played quite well. And United's performance against Wolves left a lot to be desired. So I think a lot of people, including yourself, give Spurs a realistic chance going into this. But were you surprised at the result and how it played out?
Yes, and no, to be honest. As you said, I did give you a chance, to be honest. Then once I seen the Wolves had 23 shots at Old Trafford, I thought there's Spurs or something to get at there, like big time. But I didn't quite know. I thought United would edge it in the end, and they didn't, to be honest. I know they had chances, and they probably should have had a penalty and whatnot as well. But I fancied it then. Once after the first weekend's games, I thought this is probably going to be a basketball match because neither team can't seem to defend here, and they have quality going forward. So, but I've fair play to Spurs. I don't know how he's done it, but he's done it.
Um, I think if you go back to the start of the game, I thought what really impressed me from the start was that they got the ball down and played from the very first minute. I think Vicario had the ball. I looked at the clock; it was 90 seconds in. He put the ball on the ground. They rolled it to Romero, and that was a feature of Spurs' play. Even at times, once United kind of found out what they were going to do, we've seen a couple of times Porro was caught on the ball, but it didn't dissuade Spurs from trying to play that way. So, I mean, I think you said to me at halftime, even though it was 0-0, you were quite impressed. Was that what you were impressed about? That despite it's been so early on in Ange's reign, United were getting chances possibly off Spurs playing out from the back, that they continued to do it and they believed in their way of playing.
I think it's just more disbelief in the fact that last the few years we were watching Spurs sitting with five at the back. I couldn't believe my eyes that Spurs were playing football again. But then no, hey, that's just your new style now. So we always knew that Ange was going to play brave football, courageous football, get on the ball instead of lumping it forward like Conte and all the rest of it. But I was really impressed with Spurs. Just you just show that bravery now, which is all you want. And I've looked the defence will come, I think, but I really impressed with Spurs so far.
Yeah, now one player I've been singing the praises of him all summer. I thought he's going to have a big season this year. Now, not a lot of people probably agree with me. Um, and I have to claim some sort of victory because I'm probably going to get more wrong this year than right. But
Yeah.
Bissouma has been player of the match 2 games in a row. He's been lauded by a lot of pundits, and we've seen Monday Night Football's analysis last night. Bissouma was key to this, and does this just show you that you can have all the players you want really, and you can play a certain way of playing, but at times when Spurs was under pressure, Bissouma was dropping under the fence, taking the ball, where he's back to goal and turning and running at United. So, do you think that although he was signed last summer, he could potentially be Spurs' sort of best signing of the summer because Conte never really gave him a snuff last year. I know he was injured quite a lot, but even when he was available, he tended to favour Højbjerg because he was resilient. He doesn't really take too many chances, whereas Bissouma's a bit more of a flair player. So do you think this is a real positive for Spurs, Bissouma?
100%. I think he suits the Ange style because as we were just saying, he's brave, he's courageous. You get on the ball, he'll try to drop a shoulder and bit a player. He's not as aggressive and as kind of built as what do you call him, Højbjerg. So that's probably why Conte favoured him. Though that's more his style of play. Have more aggressive players and stuff like that there. But Bissouma looks a level. I don't know how Spurs got him. He doesn't look like a Spurs player to me. And he looks like he just has that quality, stands out like. And you spotted it, fair play. But um, not that I didn't like him, by the way. But no, he looks good. He looks like he's need to keep him fit. You know what I mean?
I think the fact that they got him for 25, 30 million as well last year, he had that kind of, there was an allegation against him. He was cleared of that. He had only 1 year left in his contract. If you look at some of the players that's moved in the last 12 months for big money, he was a real steal at that price.
I think because people obviously do forget as well. There was the big clubs were queuing him for him before he's got him. We were looking at him, but then obviously that allegation came about, and we didn't know where he was going. Then Spurs got him, but the big clubs were queuing him for him. And I think the injury, and then not sitting Conte style, kind of people did just forget about him. But he's come back like a bang now, so it's going to be a key player for using this year, I think.
Yeah, comment here from Stefan. Me and Stefan had quite a Twitter debate last night. Stefan's a big Arsenal fan from Bulgaria. Good to see you watching, Stefan. We're going to get you. We're definitely going to get you on because I think it's fair to say he's a massive Arsenal fan. He doesn't have much time for Spurs, and he thinks that maybe certain Spurs fans on Twitter have went over the top a wee bit over the weekend. And I have to say, some Spurs fans have went over the top. It was a great one, great performance, but there's a long way to go. It wouldn't, as our good friend Mark rightly says, it wouldn't be like Spurs. They go to Bournemouth and get beat at the weekend. So I think we have to be careful as well. Callum, now a lot of people have said, Spurs have no chance without Harry Kane this season. They finished 8th last year. He scored 30 goals. I think Paul Merson topped Spurs to be bottom half. A lot of pundits don't have Spurs anywhere near the top 6. But I think you made this point earlier in the season that if Kane does go, it might enable Spurs. No, I'm not saying you said they would do it, but it might give them an opportunity to build a team rather than building it around one man. And as you rightly says, Kane could score another 30 goals this year, but if we're solely reliant on him, we might not finish much higher. So do you think with Kane gone, Spurs have a chance to build a better all-round team and maybe not play to the strength of one man, but play to the strength of 11?
I think 11's better than one. It's a team sport, like. So I think just the pressure's off, to be honest. Now, I think you've seen it in Sarry. I think as the handbrake's off, you can kind of just no everyone's root Spurs off, so there's no point. It's just it is what it is now. Spurs can go and play away a bit of freedom. There's no real pressure on them. As I said,
Spurs like it, and Spurs do like it when the pressure's not on, don't they?
Big time. They don't really perform well under pressure. If fair, even though they won Saturday, but no, Kane scored 30 goals last year, and he's finished 8th, or 8th. So look, you have to build an all-round better team, and that's probably the direction you're heading now. But I suppose any Spurs fan will still want Kane in that team now. The way you're playing, you're probably thinking, how far could we go with him in that team? You probably got Ange a couple of years too late.
The comments are flying in. Good to see so many people watching. Stefan's not concerned at all about Spurs, and he thinks that this comment I have might have an expiry date because he's saying that they're all being scored by players that don't score a lot of goals, including an own goal. Was that sustainable? But it's only 2 games, Stefan. I wouldn't be. I'm looking at the overall performance where we had a lot of the ball, and there was even at 1-0, Cam, which impressed me. 1-0, Spurs didn't sit on the 1-0 lead. They went for more goals.
Yeah, 100%.
Ben saying about Tomiyasu's yellow card. Ben, we're going to be talking about that after the Spurs. We're going to be looking at a lot of them referee decisions, so hang back just for that. And I think you says I was very worried when Kane left. Obviously, I was distraught. Probably heat of the moment says that I don't give us much of a chance this season. But I mean, it's hard to be positive when your best player leaves, and it wasn't just our best player; it was a club legend. The only thing I can sort of when you lost Gerrard, all right, he might have been towards the end of his career, but it still wasn't easy losing a player that means a lot to you. So, but as you say, it might give our players a chance to step up. And do you think that it's happened at the right time where Ange is coming in, a new manager, a new style of play? Spurs got a good fee for him and he's going to he's going to a European team. He's not going to Premier. It's almost, if he was going to leave, it was the best timing, and Spurs got the best possible outcome.
In terms of the deal itself, it's probably as close to as perfect as you can get as a Spurs fan. Got a great fee from him. He's way to Bayern. You're not going to have to play against him in the Premier League. You can kind of almost forget about him. Do you know what I mean? But like as I said, you would have him back tomorrow. It's not really the issue. But and in terms of just as a team now, you have to just kind of forget about him. He's a club legend. He always will be. But you have to just focus on the new style of play now. And I think it was probably the right time, because they probably should have left a few years ago, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people have been saying that, and we've seen the Monday Night Football analysis last night, that there is flaws in this Spurs system. Against Brentford, they give away chances. Spurs that won the game 2-0 on Saturday, but United had chances in the first half and made a big chance to make a 1-1 with Anthony hitting the post. So, do you think that, Callum, as the season goes on, is there going to be more risks or rewards? Do you see Spurs being caught out more than they'll get? Do you think there'll be more bad days than good days? Because I did say I think some days this season we'll have great days, and I think we'll have bumps as well. The next 3 games look favourable, but we've got Arsenal and Liverpool coming up, 2 teams with probably more quality in attacking areas than United. If they get them chances, it might be a different story. So, where do you see this style of play getting Spurs this year?
Really, really tough to say. The one I actually agree with your man Stefan that the goals are kind of unsustainable. The one I don't think he's have a great front three with Charlton. You can't really rely on him. Macalister's hit and miss. Son, the jury's out in him. I think he could be over the hill, to be honest. So I don't think he's have an out and out goal scorer. He's probably will have more down days than good, but I think overall it is positive. But you see you bit Man United on Saturday, and I wouldn't be shocked if Bournemouth get a result, and I think it's a Saturday again, though they plays. But as I said, I said in pre-season, July, before you kick the ball, you're going to have some great days and some poor days. But that's just the way Ange plays. It's kind of similar to the way Liverpool's probably the best example. I don't know we have better quality players, but like the whole risk versus reward of getting Trent and stuff. But you know what I mean? It's the whole risk versus reward of getting Trent up the right hand side whenever that's an endless debate. But you know what I mean in terms of you have to have that risk versus reward to go get the big results. So I think it'll come, but it'll be a bumpy season this year.
I don't agree with Stefan on much, but I do agree with these comments that no player is bigger than the club. And I also think as well, he's got a point. I don't like Stefan that much, to be honest. I'm only joking, Stefan. But I do see where he's coming from with the goal scoring aspect, and kind of like you said there, that you don't really see Richarlison scoring many goals. As you said, Son's best days look to be behind him, and Kulusevski, the man can't have a barn door. So where do the goals come from? They'll have to be super clinical when they get their chances. Yeah. But I suppose it's one for maybe 2 weeks' time, because there is some time left in the transfer window. I would be shocked if Spurs didn't bring somebody in. I'm not saying it's going to be a proven out-and-out goal scorer in the Premier League, but somebody that gives them a different option. Because we see when Richarlison went off on Saturday, Son was moved up front. They don't really have a replacement at the moment. They did sign the young Argentinian striker, but Ange Postecoglou says that as one for the future. Won't see him too much this season. And Stefan's back on again. Your fingers are going to be showing, ain't Stefan? It's so open, even for how poor United were. They still had a better XG without a clear penalty. We'll look at that penalty as well. With bumpy season. I know, Stefan, much like yourselves, Arsenal had bumpy seasons under Arteta at the start too, so you have to give us time. Callum, before we move on here, I'm just going to ask you this year, because you didn't give us much of a chance this season. So where can Spurs finish this season?
It's like a lucky dip. I really don't know. I think you need to sign a goal scorer. If you don't sign a goal scorer, I think this 2 week period will be forgotten about, to be honest. At the minute, I can't put these any higher in sixth. I'll go 7th at the minute, because you don't have a goal scorer.
Yeah, I think we need to get busy in the transfer market. Right, there was another team in the game, just in case people think this is a Spurs podcast. It's not. Man United. Now, again, I was out to watch the game on Saturday, and a lot of United fans before the game weren't confident at all. And I always think that's a bad sign when this early in the season, when your fans are sort of writing you off before a game, especially against the Spurs team that are going to be, very much on a project this season. So, Callum, do you think United fans should be worried about this start of the season? Now, they put it in the context. They lost their first 2 games last year, and they looked a million miles off. If you especially remember that Brentford game was their first away game last year, beat 4-0 down at half time, and they looked really, really poor. Nobody would have thought they would have went on to finish third, won a trophy, and also they got to the FA Cup final as well. And they were beat 2-1 in a tight game. So, do you think United fans will be looking more at last season, or do you think that there's a bigger issue here?
I've actually got to mention that just before you said it, that a few of them probably will be looking and going, here, calm down. We lost the first 2 last year, and then we went on to do good things. So me personally, I know everyone's going to be laughing because I'm a Liverpool top on me, but I would be worried, honestly, because I think he's got the balance of the midfield wrong. To be honest, I know there's just, I seen before I came on there that there's Mount out for a few weeks now, so that might change the midfield again, but just Casemiro on his own, and then you have Bruno and Mount, kind of bomb and forward as the two advanced 10s. I think he's isolated on his own, and Wolves who were tough to go down though, give him a hope last Monday night, and they got 23 shots at Old Trafford. I think that's a record for I don't know how long. So it's, unless he changes that system or the midfield, I'd be very, very worried.
I kind of thought that maybe it was just a one-off against Wolves. But I started to get a lot of confidence when I seen that Wolves were beat 4-1 by Brighton at home, and they were 4 down. They were 4 down by half time, I think, or they were 4 down very early. They were 4 down very early in the second half, and the game was over. So that kind of put that result into context, and I thought, right, United are going to be maybe off it here. But I do agree with you. I think this is a bigger problem than last year, because Ten Hag was just on the door last year. So you can almost sort of give him a bye ball at the start. A lot of United fans were pretty happy with their pre-season. I remember they beat Arsenal 2-0. But I remember Gary Neville saying something about he didn't agree with the midfield setup. I think they would only lose a couple of games before pre-season started then. I think Real Madrid beat them and somebody else beat them. I'm not quite sure. But do you think this is an imbalance sort of in the midfield, or do you think it's more down to one player? Because they highlighted this in Monday Night Football last night. Casemiro was making some strange decisions in that Spurs game. He was pressing when he didn't really have to, and he was leaving his midfield completely wide open. And then there was other times where Mount and Fernandes and Casemiro, between the three of them, were nowhere near each other, and kind of one break and play, and they were out of the game. So where do you stand on this? Is it more of a Casemiro problem, or do you think it's a complete system?
It's always about a both, Gareth, to be honest. But look, I said it when Casemiro signed. He was a here and now signing. Like he's what is he now? 30, 31, 30, and he's another 4 years to go on that contract and $300 a week or whatever it is. So I didn't think he was going to be good for him long term. If I thought that they probably should have went and got the likes of Rice, would have been better long term on them. But look, I just don't think Casemiro. Don't get me wrong as well. He's being isolated on his own. We've seen it last night on Monday Night Football. He's Bruno and Mount are halfway up the pitch and he's left on his own, but he is making some crazy decisions when the moments come, because Carricker actually made like a sly comment. He's James Maddison's good, but he's not fast, and he breezed past him. So he's making some rash decisions, and it actually, as a Liverpool fan, it strikes me as the same as when we played Fulham last season, the first game of the season. You knew something wasn't right, and we probably should have signed him a fielder, and we ended up not doing it. And I wonder United could probably regret that if they don't go and get someone. So I think there's a complete imbalance there, but he is making some very rash decisions as well. And they done it last year as well. I think the warning signs have been on the wall, to be honest. You look at the big results, they got thumped a few times. Obviously the Brentford, the Liverpool game, and Man City as well. So I don't think it's a one-off, is what I'm saying.
Martin Ward saying Spurs got a great victory and I got a clean shave. What's going on? I know we're on the Matrix here. It was a great game. The few signings and new styles seem to suit. They still need a number 9. Richarlison, no good to lead the line for his. We kind of touched on that, Martin. Thanks for your comment. A few more comments coming on here. Buzzy of the night. James Keenan saying the problem with Spurs, they do well against the big teams and lose the small teams. I'm not quite sure about that, because they've struggled in some big games over the years too. But thanks for your comment, James. It's good football, but so open. It'll be a bumpy season. And didn't remember your name. Sorry. Are you concerned that Man United still have no identity in terms of playing style? Callum, he's on with you, I think. Are you concerned about Man United's terms of playing style?
I think because you're into the second season now, as you say, there's not really much room for. You can't just say, Ten Hag, it's his first season anymore. Now that's gone at this stage now, and I know your man Haaland is it, as how you say it. He's out injured, but Rashford up front he's just not number 9. He said multiple times now he likes playing from the left, and I don't know. I haven't seen United go away to a top 6 team and go on the front foot and dominate the game yet under Ten Hag, and until I see that there, I'm not really convinced with him, to be honest.
Yeah. Owen saying, how's it going, lads? Thanks, Owen. Regular listener. Needs to look to know who the new presenter is. I know I look a lot younger, probably what it is. I think that Spurs results taking years off me. Can we move this along slightly? A lot of questions coming in there, so it's kind of been broken up. So we've spoke about that system and the identity. Now you've mentioned Mount's injured. Do you think Ten Hag has to do something different this weekend against Forest? Because you could say it's only Forest, but sure, it was only Wolves, and they found gaps. These are still professional Premier League players, so they've got quality. And if there's space like they've shown in the first 2 games, then they'll be punished. So if you especially look at Forest, they probably have better players in that attacking area. You look at Gibbs White, Brennan Johnson. If they get them chances and they get that space they run, it could be it could be another bad day for United. So do you expect something to change this weekend?
100%, because let's not forget too, Forest have had a good start this season. I know they got bit by Arsenal, but and obviously the quality outweighs them there. But they had a good result there against who was it, Sheffield. So 100%, I would expect Ten Hag now to play like a more of a double pivot, maybe bring McTominay in or something like that there to give Casemiro a bit more protection and kind of take it back to who it was last season. But even then, I think United fans will probably agree it's probably not really to the level of what they need, but they have to change something because they were getting Mateus Nunes at the freedom of Old Trafford 2 weeks ago. So
do you know what, Callum? I'm not sure he will change it. Maybe because Mount's out, he has to do something different in terms of personnel.
But Mount was not, I don't think he would have known.
He said after the game he thought the midfield played well. The amusement of a lot of United fans. He kind of says after the Wolves game that he didn't think it was a penalty, but then he was crying for the penalty against Romero, which we'll speak about. But he seems to find a lot of excuses when things aren't going well, and then he shades away from maybe when United have got a bit of luck. So I get the feeling he's a very stubborn man, and that McTominay. It was crying out for McTominay that game on Saturday. At half time he could have brought him on. It was 0-0. They were still in the game, and United would have got chances on the counter attack. So he didn't do it then. And the fact that he had 5 subs, he made 5 subs, didn't bring McTominay on. I think Gary Neville picked up on it that it's kind of a sign that he doesn't really see McTominay's future being here. Now they have been heavily linked with Amrabat, who you're a massive fan of, but no, you don't want him anywhere near Liverpool.
No chance.
I think it's very much dependent on sales. They were hoping to get Maguire out, hoping to get McTominay out. That hasn't happened. So unless they get players out, it doesn't look like anyone else is coming in. So, what if Mount's out, who do you see coming into the team?
I'm trying to think. I don't even. Who did they bring on Saturday? How have you found somebody
Sancho come on.
In terms of, I'm trying to think who they have in midfield. Is Fred going it?
Fred's away to Galatasaray. I actually heard some United fans crying. They were saying they'd have Fred back. Because
I don't know. I think if they're looking to get Amrabat, then that means they're looking to give Casemiro more protection. Than the only person they have that there at the club that I can think of off the top of my head at the minute is McTominay. But then after what you just said, he doesn't look like he's going to be coming on. So I honestly don't know. I'm probably not the best person to ask. I'm a Liverpool fan, but it's. I don't know. I think I agree with you.
Palistri come on. He's a young player, but he's more of an attacker. They're overloaded with attackers and not enough on midfielders.
So he brought on attacking players to try to win the game, or get back into the game. But I don't know. I would probably bring on McTominay, but you don't really have anyone else. That's why they're looking for people like. But
yeah, Stefan's asking you would drop, and you're saying you'd bring McTominay in if Mount's injured. Owen's saying that the midfield was passed by far too easy. If they play like that, it's a worry for United. Oh, and I know you'll be devastated if they play like that all season. You've been a big United man, so I'm sure you'll be suffering at the moment seeing United struggle. And James is saying that Spurs will finish above United. That's a big statement. Danny, a Man United fan here, maybe he can give us a wee bit more. He's saying Ten Hag is losing a lot of fans with his injuries recently. Signing's been questionable. Mount looks a shambles, and fans can't defend that anymore. Pressure is on if Højlund doesn't perform. So already you can see that there's a big shift in the fans who were lauding Ten Hag at the end of last season. That do you think that some of them results last season peppered over a lot of the cracks? Because I done a wee bit of research today, and the record away from home against the top teams is woeful. They've lost every game bar the back end of last season. They got a draw away at Spurs when they were 2-0 up. And Spurs absolutely peppered them in the second half, and that was a Spurs team who had a real, a caretaker manager in charge who had nothing really to play for. They lost away to Villa, away to Brighton, away to Newcastle, away to Liverpool, away to Man City, away to Arsenal. They lost all these games, and as you look at Brentford away, they took some heavy beatings as well. And if you look at their League Cup run, it was quite favourable. The only really team they played on there was Newcastle in the final. And in the FA Cup semi-final against Brighton. It went to penalties. So they didn't do anything last year that was, it blew you away completely. So do you think that this season the jury's going to be out if things don't go well?
100%. You can go back and dig back a few podcasts last year when I was on it. I said everything you just said there. Now they have impressed me away from home, and they got some big thumpings along the way. The trophy probably did paper over it big time, because if United don't win a trophy last year, and then they look and they review the season and they go, "Fuck, we got bit here, we got bit there. We never really imposed ourselves away from home against a big team." I think the pressure would have been on even before balls kicked this year, but he bought himself loads of credit by that Carabao Cup, to be honest. But I think it could get nasty really, really quickly with Man United fans this year if they don't perform.
Do you think if you've seen the Ten Hag at Ajax and the Ten Hag now, teams don't resemble one another at all? Do you think he's still struggling to bring his style of play that he developed at Ajax here? I know it's only a couple of games, but you could already see after a few games with Spurs how they're going to play. I'm not quite sure what United's identity is at the moment.
I agree with you, Gareth, but you look at, he is struggling, but he's bought on players that he's worked with as well. He's trying to kind of fast track as well. Onana, Anthony, Martinez, all players that he's worked with before. So I'm not quite sure.
Van de Beek's here as well, and he hasn't used him. He was probably.
He's long gone, but I don't know. He's brought on players who he's directly worked with, so he has that relationship there with them already, and he still doesn't have that solid identity where you can associate Man United with. I don't know. I think it's scary times for Man United, only. That's all I'm saying.
A lot of similar fans post-season were saying that it could be a big season for United. Do you think they're still some way off challenging?
Oh, 100%. They're not getting nowhere near a title, and that's not me being biased. I think that's just fair assessment, to be honest. The only way they get near a title is if your man Højlund comes in and scores 30 all goals. But even then, we seen with Spurs last year, you can score 30 goals and be nowhere near it. So I don't know. No chance for a title. No chance.
Stefan saying he thinks the Arsenal game in 2 weeks will be crucial. If they lose badly, Ten Hag will be on the hot seat and come under huge pressure. I think again, depending on how Forrest goes at the weekend, that it could be under severe pressure going into the Arsenal game. If things didn't go well this weekend. And based on their away record, Callum, it's hard to see them going to Arsenal and doing anything. Right, let's move on. Some people were asking about referee decisions there, and I think it's been a major talking point in the first 2 weeks of the Premier League season. Before we get into some of the decisions, Callum, do you think that they're guilty? These referees are looking to be the stars of the show. They seem to be flashing yellow cards for fun at the minute for any sort of time wasting or dissent. Not that we're agreeing with the time wasting and dissent, but it seems to be players are getting booked left, right, and centre. I get the fact maybe they're trying to stamp it out. But we've seen five. We had only 9 games at the weekend because Luton Burnley was postponed, and we've seen 5 red cards, and they were all in different games. That's a strange statistic. I can't remember that happening for I don't remember ever seeing that, to be honest. I'm sure it probably has happened before, but in recent memory, I don't remember seeing that happening. So, do you think they're guilty of trying to be the stars of the show?
Really difficult one to answer, because these new rules now, I think they're just kind of doing what they've been told to do. They're having an absolute no leeway at all with these yellow cards and the time wasting and all. You seen in the first weekend, I just remember, because I'm a Liverpool fan, when Macalister asked the referee for a yellow card when he got fouled, and they end up both getting a yellow card. And then you look at Thomas Partey last night; he was asking for a yellow card, and he never got booked for asking. So there's inconsistencies already. But in terms of, there is some egos about them as well. Don't get me wrong, but I think they are just kind of, the law's there, and I think it's more to do with the rules of winning. Now they're just trying to.
You think these rules have given them a position of power?
Because if they go back in and on the reporting and say, well, I've implemented the law there, so I can't do much more. But I don't know. I think that these rules might get changed, because, as you say, I'm five red cards. I didn't even know it was 5 until you said it there now. But 5 red cards on one weekend is insane.
Yeah. Callum saying, or Owen saying 100%. The rest want to be all about them. It was worse last night because Partey was on a card already. And Martinson doesn't know what's worse the minute, the refs or the VAR. Well, I think there's no problem with the VAR. I think the problem is the people using the VAR as the issue. Macalister overturned half an hour ago. Joke. We will talk about that now. as we just come on air, just before we come on air there, that Macalister Red card was overturned in terms of, he won't be suspended for any more games, but he still had to go off the pitch. So, Cam, why was this not overturned at the time? Why did it have to be done after the game? We're on the Monday now. The game is on Saturday. Tuesday now. So, all right, Macalister won't be missing for any more games coming up. And because Liverpool won the game on Saturday, it really doesn't mean much. But, it was 2-1 when he gets sent off. Liverpool did score right away after. But if that had been 2-1, maybe against even a better team, and Macalister sent off, Liverpool dropped points. They could be big points. Even at this early stage of the season, they all count. So why was this not overturned at the time, do you think?
I think because I was watching, Dermot Gallagher on the Monday, and I think you have to just kind of go off what he said in terms of VAR's not there to re-referee the game. So their kind of thing is if they're looking at it, they're going, has the referee made an obvious error? But even though what the weekend he did, we've all seen it now, he made an obvious error and they didn't overturn it. But they're looking at us saying, is there even a 1% reason why we can agree with him or justify his decision? And if there is, they'll not overturn it. So I think they just back each other at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
So you basically think the only way this would have been overturned is if Macalister completely missed him, for example, and it was like an air shot.
Because he made contact with his ankle, or it was foot versus foot, even though it was higher up. Because there was contact there, that's enough for them. They back their ref. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's ridiculous, and I don't know, to be honest.
Do you blame the referees more, or do you blame the legislation in place? Because of the legislation in place is saying we're not there to re-referee the game unless it's a clear and obvious error. Now, again, this clear and obvious error is a grey area for me, because that was a clear and obvious error. I don't think even in the strongest of United fans would argue that was a red card for a Liverpool player. I was convinced it would be overturned. I was convinced that the Onana penalty decision last week would be overturned. That didn't happen either. So there's two big calls when kind of everyone was in agreement. Everyone that watches football agreed that the Onana incident was a penalty and that this wasn't a red card, yet none of them were overturned. So what is the point of this VAR if it's not going to get involved in the big decisions? Especially the ones which do look clear and obvious to the match day going fan.
I think as well, because just to reference that Sky Sports, whenever Dermot Gallagher as well, I can't remember the other fellow's name it's on it, but he was saying
Stephen Warnock, is it?
So he was saying get rid of the clear and obvious and kind of make it more. Has the referee itself made an issue, yes or no, or has the decision making a more yes or no? But then that goes on the re-refereeing it then, which they don't want to do. So I don't know. I've always been kind of.
I think this is because they don't want to embarrass the referees. I think
we don't want to re-referee no matter what.
We don't want to get involved because we don't want to embarrass the referees. If it's a yes or no, and do we think that the decision been made is wrong, then if we say have 4 or 5 every weekend been overturned, it puts more spotlight on the FA and the referees that, well, if we're having to overturn every decision in every game, then these referees ain't that good. Whereas it's almost like a stats game. If they've only overturned maybe 1 or 2 every week, but if it was 5 or 6, getting them to maybe even double digits if these decisions were all wrong, it puts severe pressure on one, Howard Webb, because then he's not doing his job properly, and 2, the standard of refereeing not being good enough, therefore these referees need replaced. So do you think that some of these referees are being far too overprotected? I mean, the going rate for a punishment at the moment as a one week suspension, because I had a look at the referee appointments today for this weekend, and Simon Hooper, who was a referee that didn't give that penalty for Wolves against Man United, is actually a VAR in one of the games this weekend. So I mean, he's been took out of the spotlight 1 week already. He's must maybe a wee bit of. He's probably not got he's probably lost a week's wages or whatever. But is that really a fair punishment? Because there's Wolves, for example, we're done already a possible result at Old Trafford. They've now lost a game against Brighton, and they're sitting with 0 points after 2 games, and already they're under serious pressure to stay in the league. So, what should be justified as fair punishment?
I don't know. I think after last year, whenever the linesman elbowed Robertson and there was nothing happening, I think that sets the tone already. You know what I mean? Like, if Robertson elbows a referee, we're still talking about it today. You know what I mean? So I think it's like I remember Carragher said a couple of seasons ago, it's like a mafia. referees. They just back a short of the hilt, and they always will, because it is kind of it's them versus the world. You know what I mean? Everyone's you can't please everybody, but I think the Paul Tierney was on VAR for that red yard, and I think he's doing a game and the weekend again now. So it's like why is there no retrospective action? I don't understand it, to be honest. I really don't.
Yeah. Oh, I think Owen makes a great point here. The fact that Macalister incident was overturned today anyway, does that not already sort of show the referee up anyway? So I kind of think he has a point there that, the fact that it's been overturned, and you know yourself, it's very difficult for these decisions to be overturned. The fact that VAR's on the game now, I can't remember too many times now where a decision has been overturned after a VAR check has agreed with the referee. So does that not just kind of embarrass everyone associated with the FA and the referee?
Exactly. I know, because you were saying there that if there was VAR if they were overturning 5, 6, 7 decisions the weekend, and then that's embarrassing. But as Owen just said there, now it's even more embarrassing that the referee got it wrong. The VAR can have 100 replays they want because there's no time limit on it. He got it wrong, and now they've overturned it. So I think fans would be all right if there was 15 overturns every weekend, but at least they're getting it right. You know what I mean? That's the whole point of VAR. If you're getting it right, then even though it's slightly embarrassing for the referees or whatever, they're still human at the end of the day. So as long as you're getting the end result correct, I think that's all fan wants.
Yeah, I kind of, if the decision's made and it's right, doesn't matter how we get there, fans aren't going to be
Exactly,
remember
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. Jamie Noonan here, who Jamie actually topped up a 2-0 for Spurs the weekend. So maybe we should look at his top 4 predictions. I think he says he fancies Newcastle and Spurs to get on there, so it might be worth keeping an eye on them. Jamie, thanks for your comment. He's saying that they're trying to ref the games from a handbook instead of using common sense and VAR, which is at their disposal. If I described the Macalister challenge to you, you'd say it was a correct red, but when you see it, it clearly wasn't a red. So refs need to take charge and be held responsible if they get it wrong. I think he makes a great point. I think when the VAR does maybe look at a handbook or looks at the legislation and says, well, he's come on with his studs up and he's caught him, so therefore it justifies a red card. But everybody that watched it with their own eyes can see it's not a red card. So do you think there's just not enough common sense in football anymore?
Because as I said, that they're going out and they're refereeing the game to the law. As long as they can come back off the pitch and say to the FA or whoever's in charge of them, or they hire Webb, and as long as they can turn around and say, look, I refereed the game and I made a decision based off the law, and I can justify that there to whoever after the game, then it doesn't really matter to them. They're happy enough with that, you know what I mean? So, but football's not that easy. You have to, as Jamie said, you have to have common sense. I don't know Paul Tierney's from Manchester, but he can take 150 reviews of that there. There's no time limit on VAR, you know what I mean? So he had all the time in the world on Saturday, and he still didn't make the right decision. So I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah. James is saying, what's the point of having VAR if you can't get it correct? I think this is the frustration, James, with a lot of fans that it's been on here now for a few years, and I don't really see any improvements. Although the referees claim it's getting better, I don't really see that. We'll move on to our incident last night. Another ridiculous decision for me. And again, here, passionate Tottenham fan, and this was against an Arsenal team, and for me, it was never a red card. Tomiyasu, his first yellow card was for time wasting. Now, I think he's been slightly unfortunate here. But I can see why they defend the referees a wee bit. They bring a wee bit of balance, and I can see why he did it, because when Arsenal went 1-0 up, they were trying to slow the game down. I think Ramsdale was taking longer over goal kicks. They were definitely taking longer over throw-ins. And in this instance, Havertz gets the ball. I think he holds it for 15 seconds and then throws it to Tomiyasu to take the throw-in. He then waits another 8 seconds, and the referee decides, right, I've let them away with a few. Now I'm going to step in. So I think Tomiyasu was slightly unfortunate that he was the player booked. But I think Arsenal kind of brought it on themselves with that incident. So just to clear up the first yellow card, how did you see that?
I think even though he was unlucky to get it, it was the right call, because they wasted nearly 30 seconds to take a throw one. And obviously with the new law now, it is what it is. So 100% first one's a yellow. He was just unlucky that he was the last one to take the ball before the throw one. So it was 100% yellow card first one.
Yeah, and then the second one, now this was scrutinised quite a bit last night. AU is kind of running away from Tomiyasu, and I wouldn't even describe it as a push. Now, when the referee blows his whistle, he indicates that he gave it for a shirt tug. Now, I've watched this back a number of times, and at no point can he see AU being pulled back. One, because he's having to bend around another player to see it, and if you actually see it as he blows his whistle, he's looking to his left around the player, therefore indicating he doesn't have a clear view. So I think he's gambling here, thinking that 9 times out of 10, this probably would be a second yellow and that he has been pulled down. But there's very little contact. I wouldn't even call it a push. It's like a fingertip on his back, a couple of fingertips, and he actually falls down. So, did David Coote here, this referee, just guess? Like he made a judgment call in his head. I think I know what's happened here, and he's got the second yellow card out and sent him off.
Because when I seen it in real time, it's just a classic no stop on a counter attack. I saw it's a yellow card and he's off. So that's what I seen on first view and live. So I saw he's off here, and then you look, as you say, you look back on the replay, and he's just seen that he's kind of reached out or whatever, and he touched him, but I mean by how much I don't know. And then I kind of mixed the decision for him by falling down or lying down his knees or whatever. And so once he sees the player going down, as you say, he's kind of putting two together, and he's giving it, and he's hoping that there was a pull there, but as we've seen in the replay, there was very minimal contact.
Now, this has created a lot of debate, right? Now, one, before you even get into it, I don't think any referee should be guessing, especially with a player on a second yellow card. If you can't see it, you can't give it. And if it had been a clear pullback, you can see on their Monday Night Football analysis, anyway, they would have got that sort of that virtual thing they've got now, and be able to look at the referee's position. I didn't do this last night, but I seen this when they were slowing down the replays, that he didn't have a clear view of it, so I don't think he could have been blamed. I think where you would have had an issue was maybe his linesman or his fourth official could have helped him out. And again, they didn't get involved, and they definitely would have had a better view, because it was just on that touchline beside the coaches and beside the fourth official, and the linesman was on that side too, so they didn't get involved. And then this has created an argument now of why can VAR not be used for second yellow cards, because it technically still is a player being sent off. So do you think this is something that needs to be looked at? VAR being used if there's an unfair second yellow card given out?
I think it's more the referees will probably argue how often is a scenario like last night going to come up in terms of a second yellow being wrong. They're usually very kind of cut and sorted incidents, to be honest. But I suppose with the time with the new rules and all the rest of it, now you probably could make a point, and then everyone's saying anyway.
But if the technology's there, why not use it anyway?
And that's what I was just about to say. You know what I mean? People's going to turn around and say if the VAR is there to get the game to get to the correct decision, then it has to have the freedom to be implemented whenever there's a decision to be made. So I probably should be implemented or have the freedom to be consulted whenever there's a decision on the pitch that needs to be reviewed.
Yeah. I think as well, they've been very fortunate this weekend in terms of, Liverpool. The two big decisions were that went against teams. Both teams won, and in the end, it didn't cost them any. But I think if Palace had scored a late equaliser last night and Liverpool had done the draw that game 2-2 with Bournemouth, I think these incidents would have been scrutinised a lot more. Callum, before we move on to the next incident, a lot of people asking, a lot of talk about Romero's handball. Now, we've seen last week in the Chelsea game, the decision that didn't go for Liverpool. I think it struck a hand of a Chelsea player in the box. But it seems to be this season that if the ball's moving at such a pace and there's not a lot of distance between the two, the ball and the striking player, then it's not going to be punished as much as it would have done in previous years. So where do you stand on that? Do you think that both of them penalties, one was more clear than the other, or do you think in the end that both decisions were correct?
The Liverpool one's really difficult because you don't know where the ball's going. I thought, or it's hard to kind of get confirmation on, but if the ball was on target, then I thought the Liverpool one should have been a penalty. You're stopping a goal scoring opportunity. But with Jackson, he has his arms are on, and he's kind of just jumping to get a bit of leverage, whatever. So I can see why that one wasn't given, because close proximity as well, and the hand's not out, whereas Romero's hand was out, and I thought at the time it was a penalty. I thought these were very fortunate not to concede the penalty, but I think that the distance, it's a subjective one as well again, but I think I do kind of agree with that there. If you're standing 2-3 yards away and the ball's blasted at you, there's not much you can do. But in terms of the actual specific case, I think it was a penalty because he kind of leans and his arms out, and it's not in a natural position. I think 9 times out of 10 that's given it. I really don't know.
I had my heart in my mouth. I thought it was going to be a penalty. But I think this is the classic case of both them decisions had been given. VAR wouldn't overturn them, and this
exactly.
is
I know because they're not really refereeing the game.
This is the problem we've got. We've got another comment here. United should have had a Stonewall penalty. Yeah, Romero's save. That's what we just talked about there. I think Danny United have a case, but it will be interesting to see as we move on in the season if that's going to be consistent. It's no good next week if that happens again and somebody gets a penalty for it. So they have to be consistent with that. But only with more games we'll find that out. Last point on the referees. Do you think we're going to see more red cards this year? And do you think we could have the possibility of, especially the bigger games, being ruined because of Liverpool's playing Man City, for example, and Liverpool get a player sent off, and it's Man City have a huge advantage. So do you think there's a possibility this year that we're going to see more of that happening?
I was seeing a clip earlier on at Ali McCoy on TalkSport. I can't remember the exact number. I think it was either 30 or between 30 odd and 40 odd red cards last season. And he said, calculated on current pace, we're on pace for 114 red cards this year, which is it's unbelievable. Like if that was the continue, like so, if you're getting that many red cards over a season, there's going to be so many games ruined. I think they will have a look at how kind of strict they are with these yellow cards, because them yellow cards, as you seen last night, they tell you up quick and you get a player sent off and whatnot. I don't know. I think that these rules are going to be rescinded quickly, to be honest, because it's kind of big games are going to get ruined, I think, as well. I do agree with you.
Yeah. I think the problem they have is that they're hoping that these yellow cards sort of enforce a point early on in the season and that they don't have to do it as much. But hard to know, because I think it's common nature, Callum. If you're 1-0 up in a game, your tendency is to slow it down, to break up the game, to slow it down, to stop momentum gaining from the opposition team. So it's kind of rewriting the, and this isn't just football, this is any kind of sport. I think, you've seen it with Djokovic, when he's won in a game, he slows down his serve. Snooker players can tend to play slower. It can happen in loads of sports. So I think that this is the problem that you've got. You're trying to almost rewrite sport. Jamie says he thinks the cards will ease off refs just trying to stamp their authority early doors. I hope so, Jamie. I think me and Callum are hoping that's the case. Now we're going to look at some of the other games through that happened over the weekend, Callum, because there's a busy weekend, some big results. Start off with this one. 10-man West Ham stoned Chelsea. Now, I think everyone expected Chelsea to win this game. West Ham, a lot of negativity around not getting enough players on, Declan Rice leaving. And after Chelsea's kind of performance after the first 30 minutes against Liverpool, people will probably argue they're unlucky not they won that game. And they dominated early doors, to be honest. They should have had that. They had a penalty. They'd gone 2-1 up at half time. They'd also had our chances. Thought Sterling looked back to his best. That was probably 1+ for Chelsea. But in the end, they kind of ran out of ideas. The substitutes didn't really change anything. You still see like some Mudryk and Madueke. They still look very raw. Do you think Chelsea's in for a bumpy season? They signed a lot of young players. Going to take time to gel. And I'm still yet to be convinced that some of these players are actually Premier League quality, because if you look at Mudryk, for example, just looks like he's completely out of his depth.
I'm buzzing after what they've done the transfer market. So, look, I know Caicedo came on, got a terrible game, which I thought was funny in the end up. But look, I think Chelsea, I think that's just a product of that spending. Now they've too many players, and I don't think they've goals in the team, to be honest. I actually like your man Jackson, but they don't, in terms of actual goals, they're actually relying nearly on Chilwell getting forward and stuff like that. That's unsustainable in my opinion. Like, and then I know your fella, I can't pronounce his name, but he scored and he went off injured. But
Chukwuemeka,
he's out for 6 weeks now. I was reading today. So, but then Sterling, I thought West Ham were actually kind of like statues, to be honest. They looked good, but I think they were incredibly slow. They kind of just walked through them at times. As you say, Mudryk, yet to be proven. Jackson, I think he looks decent, to be fair to him. Yet to be proven. they have a list as long as your armour players that are improving it, and then you've Caicedo, Lavia, Enzo looks brilliant to be honest, but we can go through their team all day and talk about it, but I just don't think they've
He
enough
was
goals.
quite poor on Sunday, but I thought that he had a great game against Liverpool, but he wasn't as good against West Ham. Maybe that was due to the fact the game wasn't as open, and maybe didn't suit him as much.
Penalty, probably his confidence knocked in. But look, I don't know. I think Chelsea are a mixed bag. I probably give them a bit more. Everyone else probably give them a bit more credit on what they were probably due to the fact of how much they spent and the players they got on. But I'm not sure. I'm yet to be convinced. The meters could be somewhere they Spurs a bumpy season.
I think the fact they haven't solved that goal scoring problem, I think they've been slightly unlucky, and Kunku's get injured. Reece James injured as well is a big one for him. He's a very influential player on that right side. As you said, it'll be interesting to see because we've seen with Potter, he chopped and changed and chopped and changed and chopped and changed, and in the end, his last team selection kind of I probably got him the sack. I think he was probably sacked before that game even kicked off because he had players playing completely different positions. And do you think that's the problem a manager's going to have at Chelsea? Like, he's got so many players at his disposal. He's going to try and search for a system that works. And the fact that Chelsea aren't in Europe this year as well, you can only really do that in Premier League games. So it's going to create that inconsistency. And in the end, it can create an imbalance in results. And we know Chelsea, the fans are demanding. And after last season, they really need to bounce back. Do you foresee a situation where, if, I know they've got Luton on Friday, which you'd expect they won, but, if that doesn't go well and, they get the odd one, but stumble, they can't get on a run, that there's a chance that, Pochettino could suffer the same fate, or do you think they will give him a bit more time?
Well, if you go off Chelsea's track record, they won't. But I think as well, I agree with what you're saying. But I think people forget as well, all these players that they've got on are number one, they're on massive money, and they have a contract for the next 9-10 years. So the motivation, that's not going to be there. See, if they go on a run where they're getting beat every week, they'll go back to their house in London. They're on big money for another 8 years. You know what I mean? They're happy. I think it could go toxic for Chelsea very quickly, to be honest, because I think that it's come down from the way Bowley is running the club. It's a mess, and their team looks a mess at the minute.
I think a lot of people were saying it was quite clever how they did it with the contracts. They avoid FFP sanctions, but it's not a clever football strategy in terms of if some of these players aren't good enough, how do you shift them? They're on big wages. They're on like a career span contract. Most players play for 10 years and they're all on 10-year deals or 9-year deals. And Chelsea, Jamie's pointing out, and he did say thought Chelsea were going to struggle this year. That Jackson only got 9 goals last season. And he's saying that Enzo, Caicedo, and Lavia got 3 between them. So again, not that doesn't fill you with confidence where the goals are going to come from. Owen saying he thinks Endo is better than Caicedo. I think that's yet to be proven, but we'll soon see. Do you know what? One other thing that I picked up from the sort of media at the weekend was already some of the fans, and this is only after losing one game, are starting to say about Pochettino Spurs' connection. We know Chelsea don't like Spurs. So is that something that Pochettino will have to battle with as well? If things aren't going well, whatever way you look at it, Chelsea fans will see him as a Spurs man.
100%. No matter, it was like
because Spurs seen Mourinho as a Chelsea man.
I was just going to mention that, and the other one that came closer to home for me would be Rafa when he was at Everton. The fans don't forget, and as soon as you have a bad result or a couple of bad results, they jump that there surely, even though it's just business for him most of the time. But it's the fans don't see it that way, so he's going to battle that the whole way through. And
ones for Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. We're going to talk about Liverpool. Callum, I've been very easy on you tonight. I know you're a wee bit fragile with Liverpool, but we're going 55 minutes now, and we haven't had to talk about them too much, but we are going to speak about them in the next few minutes. Ones for Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. The other sort of big game at the weekend was Man City Newcastle. Felt Man City really were well worthy winners of this game. Kind of dominated for large parts, maybe towards the end when it was still 1-0 and Newcastle had a bit of a go, but fought for 80 minutes that game. Man City were confident. They dominated defence, dominated midfield, and they only really looked like the only team that was going to win it. Foden was man of the match, played really, really good in that Kevin De Bruyne role. How did you see that game? Did Man City impress you? Especially the fact that they played midweek against Sevilla as well.
100%. I think as well. And Newcastle did impress me. I know they didn't win the game, but I think for me personally, I was struggling to kind of place them this year before we kicked off. I didn't really know where, because they overachieved last season, but I think they didn't really trouble Man City too much. I don't know many shots on target they got. Must have been low anyway, if any. But they got the kind of no half chances where they were taking City in the back foot, whatever. But I think overall it shows a good level for. They're not quite at Man City level yet, obviously. We know that, but overall, I was impressed with Newcastle. I know they didn't have a great game, don't get me wrong, but Man City just kind of showed the levels. To be honest, they were comfortable for most of the game, but I think both teams impressed me, to be honest.
Yeah. Arsenal. I spoke about some indecisions, but thought Arsenal didn't play anywhere near their best. They still searching for that balance. Partey was playing like an inverted right back role. Tomiyasu was right footed playing off the left, and only still players to come back in. But do you kind of get the feeling? Because I got this feeling now. I still think that it was impressive going away to Palace and won them when they weren't at their best. For as much as they weren't that good, but Palace never really created anything. They were solid at the back. And once they got in front, even with the 10 men, I thought they didn't really show any signs they were going to give the game up. But you kind of feel that he's shoehorning Havertz into a team. He's having to play Partey at right back. They fought him on. Do you foresee any issues there with Arsenal moving forward?
He doesn't know his best team at the minute. I think the Havertz transfer was about a head scratcher for most people, to be honest, because he wasn't a prolific goal scorer for Chelsea, and if he was, he'd still be playing for them. So, and I think everyone pointed out, and then when they signed him, well, he probably will end up playing in midfield, but I don't think he's a midfielder either. He's not kind of aggressive enough. He's not tenacious. He's not going to do the running fee. He's not going to, and he's not a goal scorer.
Do you think Havertz will cause them more problems than he'll actually give him on as an output? Do you think he'll be more of a distraction more than anything?
Because he hasn't really improved in 3 years since he's been at the Premier League, to be honest. He hasn't. His best days were at Leverkusen. We haven't really seen anywhere near that level. Probably moments, but nothing. No, he actually sit up and go, fuck, he's playing well there. But I don't know. I'm really struggling to understand that signing, to be honest. I don't think he's going to be good for him long term, to be honest. Maybe I could be wrong, but I don't know.
Do you expect Arsenal to be up there again this year? For as we said, we weren't at their best, but kind of that's what you have to do when you're not at your best, and they found a way to win. And it was comfortable in the end. I know Palace had a lot of ball towards the end, but they were playing against 10 men. Up until the 10 men, it was Arsenal were dominant in possession, and Palace never really threatened at all. So, do you think you have to give them a wee bit of credit there as well?
Look, Arsenal's going to dominate loads of games of possession. They have great footballers in there. We obviously just talk badly about Havertz there, but he's still decent on the ball. He'll recycle the ball for them and whatnot. But look, Arsenal's going to dominate games. They're going to be up there. There's the rest of the teams. You would say Man City first, Arsenal second. The rest of them actually below that. You wouldn't say Madden's better at that anyway. So kind of by default they're going to be up there. But I know. Look, we were on about Man City the way they always kind of peak. From March to the end of the season. So as long if you're an Arsenal fan, you're just looking for. You got 2 results now, so you're looking for results, and then hopefully over the season, Arteta will find his better team, and you'll kind of peak closer to March instead of November. Last year October, kind of they were flying then, but you would rather be flying in April. So
yeah. And Liverpool as well bounced back after that draw against Chelsea. We got their first one of the season at home to Bournemouth. Didn't start the greatest, Cal. Bournemouth had probably took them by surprise maybe. I think Bournemouth, they've got a new style of play this year, and they were brave. But in the end, Liverpool's quality told, and even with 10 men, they dominated the game. Bournemouth, they had a couple of half chances, but Liverpool dominated, and they probably could have scored more goals. What did you make of that game?
It was funny. I walked on the park bar, and there were the balls in the back of the net, and then by the time I ordered a pint, the balls in the back of the net again, but this one counted, so I couldn't. I thought, Jesus Christ, here we go again. But look, after we had a shaky start, we gave them the goal, and then Alisson looked a bit shaky again. But then we dominated the game even after we went down to 10 men. It looked like they went down to 10 men, to be honest. So look, in the end of it, was a routine one. But I think the only real, apart from the red card, the only talk about it was Salah missed another penalty. But I know I was comfortable in the end up, so happy enough with it.
There's bigger tests to come for Liverpool, including this weekend away to Newcastle. We'll speak about that before we finish. Look, 10 days to go in the transfer window, Cal. A lot can happen between now and then. Sometimes the last week can be crazy. Up until the last few hours can be crazy. Look, some of the deals happening now at the moment. We're seeing Man City look very close to be signing Doku, Belgian winger. West Ham have just signed that centre back, the Greece, but he played for Arsenal. I think Mavropanos. But other than that, it looks pretty quiet at the moment. I think a lot of teams now have done their business, and it's potentially they're waiting for an opportunity. They go and get somebody. I can't see United doing much more. I think Chelsea, they've done most of their business as well. Spurs, I think, may look at an R4, but at the minute they look to be being very patient with that. I suppose Arsenal looks like their business is done. So a lot of the top teams have done their business, but probably the one team that maybe will be active is definitely Liverpool. Now, we spoke about this last week, me and Jamie on the podcast, which is about the Endo situation. Now, they signed him from Stuttgart for £16 million. Now, you thought this may be just as a backup option, maybe somebody come on and play Europa League games, maybe a substitute, an impact player to come on and be see out games. But they would still sign another central defensive midfielder, somebody with more stature or Premier League experience. Are you still confident that'll happen?
Gareth, every day I'm flip flopping at the moment. I'm not, to be honest. Especially as well, I know I'm not his biggest fan, James Pearce, but he put out saying that we aren't really looking for another specialist six. So that's really worrying, to be honest. Look, my opinion on Endo is going to depend on if we sign someone else or not in his position. Because if he signs someone else, then it's fine. He's come on kind of as a Milner replacement. He's going to play, see out games, play Europa League games, cup games. That's fine. That's more than happy enough with that. But if we're there, when's the window shut next Wednesday, next Thursday? If we're there next Friday, if we're there next Friday and we sign no one else in my field, or sorry, I'll rephrase, if we haven't signed a specialist six who looks young, good, has the qualities to help us, really, really worrying. They've actually regressed in my field if that ends up happening, because you've sold Fabinho. I know everyone's saying, his leg's gone or he's finished, but Hendo's not better than Fabinho. Like, he's playing a stockyard his whole career. Come on, so it's if that ends up the way it ends up, then extremely, extremely disappointed. But we'll see.
Now, the name being linked over the last week or so was Decore from Crystal Palace. Hadn't really seen a lot of him, but I watched him a wee bit last night. Thought he done well. Thought he showed good signs. But I think the Endo signing was more of a safety net signing, Callum. I think that he comes in and it's almost like, right, if we can't get somebody now at the right price, then we'll leave it, because if they hadn't got Endo one and they were really desperate, then all of a sudden they're scrambling around and they end up maybe panic buying. But, we sort of spoke about this off camera. I was saying to you, if you're Crystal Palace, you've 10 days to go in the window. Palace have already lost Zaha. So they've lost one of the, and you've seen last night, Palace aren't blessed with quality anymore. I know Elise was missing, but I think Eze was kind of crowded out of the game. Arsenal need to stop him. The Corey is more of a defensive midfielder, but it's looking like they've put a price tag of about 80 million on him. I know you're saying it's not your money, but from a business sense now, do you kind of see that, all right, it's poor enough we've missed out on our top targets, but it doesn't excuse them going and blowing 80 million on a player that they feel maybe was third, fourth, maybe even fifth choice on their list at the start of the summer, that could have been seen as maybe a fallback at much lower cost. But because the market's been quite inflated with midfielders, and the fact that Palace he's only signed for Palace last year. He's on a long-term contract. He's young, so you'd imagine he'll only get better. And this time next summer, he might even have more value. That Palace aren't really going to sell unless it's silly money. So can you kind of understand it now if Liverpool don't go and sign somebody?
No, I'll say no, because they've shown their hand. They have the money there, and they've actively made them out the number 6 situation worse. If the one that was to shut the night, then the midfield situation is no better off than we were 3 months ago. So they back themselves on their corner, Gareth, and they have to go and get him. Look, we chased Lavia for 8 weeks. I'm not saying Lavia is a bad player just because they didn't get him, by the way. I think he's going to have a great career, but is the Curry much worse than Lavia? Do you know what I mean? You're paying an extra 30 million. We ended up putting 60 on the table for Lavia, by the way. And Lavia is nowhere near a 60 million player.
But I think all right, fair enough, right? I think that's where mistakes were made. They negotiated too much on that deal, and they wasted a lot of time on that deal. But does that mistake justify making another mistake? If they don't think Decore's if they think Lavia is the better player than Caicedo, than Decore, then why should they go and spend an extra 20 or 30 million to get him? If they feel that maybe next year they'd be in a better position to get somebody else with more quality.
Because they've been saying that for 4 years, Gareth. Now with them, I feel we're with the next year. Well, with the next year, do you know what I mean? The fans are running out of patience with them, to be honest. Look, the fact that now that we've bought 111 million, for some fans that'll take the pressure off FSG. Well, they put up the money now, so that's FSG can take a step back. But Liverpool need a number 6 with top quality, and I'm not saying the Curry's world class, by the way, and by no means is he world class, but he's 23. He won Palace's Player of the Season last year in his first season, and they have the qualities to go on and be a top class midfielder and number 6, and he's going to have better midfield around him, and he's coached by Jurgen Klopp. So I think it's unexcusable if we don't get him, or they could have someone else that they're looking at too, by the way. But if we don't get someone in Decore's kind of profile, age wise or whatever, I think it's unexcusable.
Martin saying Saturday proved why Liverpool needed world-class defensive midfielder. The way we play, it'll never work for a full season with the current setup because the centre backs get exposed too much. Jamie saying Liverpool's board have got it wrong. There was deals there to be had, but they dragged their heels on money and only put it up at the last minute. Klopp is Liverpool's biggest asset, and I'd be worried that he might get his head turned. Do you think that's another part of it that they need to look at as well? If it's another season that passes by and Liverpool aren't getting any closer, Klopp might feel that he's done his time here and nothing's changing, and that he might decide, look, I'll let somebody else take this on because it's not going to get any better the way things are here, the structure. Do you think that might force someone to do something in the next 10 days?
Potentially, obviously I know more about the situation than probably whoever's commenting, but just because I'm a Liverpool fan, you can end up seeing it every day on your Twitter and whatnot. But look, according to everyone who writes for Liverpool, Klopp is the main man here. He's the one making the decisions since Edwards was gone and Ward left. And look, the reason your man George, I can't even say his second name, Schmatt, whatever you call him, the reason he's on is because he's Klopp's mate. Do you know what I mean? So, and then the hierarchy above him again, their CEO, there's a bit of a mess as well. Look, I don't know. Klopp has never had as much power as he has now. So, if anything, I think he'll probably end up staying because he'll feel responsible if it doesn't go well, because he's the one making all the decisions here at the minute now. So, look, he'll feel the responsibility, and I don't think he'll have his head turned. Maybe I'm naive, but I can't see him. I can't see him going though. Hopefully,
somebody's taxi's outside there, by the way. Maybe it's Klopp's taxi. No. They summarise before we move on to look at some of the weekend's games, and we finish the show for the night. Callum, let's put yourself into the board here, right? I'm going to give you a scenario, right? We know we've got it wrong. We know we've messed up the Lavia deal. I don't think you can blame him too much in the Caicedo one. We've messed up with Lavia. Should have had him on for the 50 million. But do we know who we believe, and I'm going to just guess that they think Lavia is the better player. Otherwise, they would have went for the Courier in the window. If they do believe that Lavia is a better player, and they weren't really going to go over 50 million, and as you says, in the end, desperate went for 60 million, how can they justify spending 80 on him? Now, it's one thing getting mistakes wrong, but if they go on him and he isn't good enough, then they've got an 80 million pound player. They're going to struggle to get the money back they paid for, and then it could set them back even further. So try and summarize that for me. What way you believe you should go and get this boy, but at what cost? If I know it's another year and you're saying it's frustrating for the fans, but do they still have to have one eye as well? And let's not mess up the next few years by signing somebody that maybe isn't good enough.
Look, according to journalists and whatnot, we made an inquiry about the Curry in July. Yes, it was more public that we wanted Lavia and whatnot, and obviously I don't really blame the Caicedo deal either. There was an opportunity there that they felt, so they went for it. But look, if they, I think it's as simple as this here. If we don't get the Curry or someone of similar profile, and we go and get Faf again, even though Faf might get Champions League, but let's say for the example that we don't get Champions League this year, you have big players on big contracts, and the likes of Salah, his mentality will not be sticking around for another season in Europa League. For most of these big players this year, it's just a last year's a one-off, right? We'll go now for Europa League, but if we don't get Champions League this season or no for next season, I think we'll be on for a big shock next summer. Players will be looking at their head, turning their heads, and not only that, there you've the added kind of annoyance of Saudi Arabia. They'll just throw big money on it. You know what I mean? So look,
Yeah,
if we don't get top four,
Salah has 1 year left in his contract to next summer, so he would
exactly.
potentially
So
help more
and they're not
player.
getting any younger, by the way, as well. You know, Van Dijk, you have Salah, you have Alisson. They're all in the 30s now. You have all these top quality players who are not getting any younger. I think it's negligence. You're kind of wasting their final good years if you don't go and get a midfielder now a number 6. You can kind of help the team out. So no, I think there's no excuses, to be honest. And you will see if they don't do it and we don't get top 4 this year, and you can go back to this clip. I'm telling you, the big boys will be going.
Callum, we're going to fly through these weekend games because we're having our show on Thursday, and I'll look at these games more in depth, especially probably the feature game, which will be Newcastle Liverpool. That'll be main talking point on Thursday, providing that there's nothing crazy happens between now and Thursday. You can never rule it out happening. But let's have a look at some of these games. Just going to ask you for sort of who you fancy in these games, and then we're going to wrap up the show. So Friday night, it all kicks off. By the way, loving all these Friday night games. Don't know if they went this Saturday anymore to see the Premier League football. Chelsea take on Luton. I've seen a funny stat that this is Premier League history here. We've got the most expensive assembled squad against the least expensive. Chelsea's nearly at 1 billion against Luton's, which cost 19 million pound. And on that note, I mean, if Luton were to go there and shock Chelsea, the writing could be on the wall already for Pochettino. So how do you see this? How do you see this game going? Did Chelsea get off the does Pochettino get his first one?
I'll be stunned if they don't win on Friday night. Look, I'll keep it quick. I fancy Chelsea. I'd be very, very shocked if Luton go to the bridge. But the way the season's going, it's set up for it now, actually.
I'll let you respond to that question actually before we go on the next game. Owen thinks Salah may move on next year anyway. Do you think there'll be even if Liverpool already finish 3rd or 4th, that there's a chance they might cash in next summer?
If we don't get Champions League, that decision's made for him. He'll not stay. That's as simple as that. And he's on big wages, so we'll not be able to afford it anyway. So we'll facilitate it and let him go. But I think if you have any chance of keeping him next summer, you have to get Champions League.
Moving on to half 12, Bournemouth take on the Harlem Globetrotters. Sorry, Spurs. How do you see now? Funny enough, one of the things that somebody pointed out to me at the start of this when Madison signed was this boy's injury prone. Now I'm hearing that he may well miss this game on Sunday or on Saturday. He was seen leaving in a protective boot after the United game. Now apparently it's precautionary, and they are hopeful he might make this game, but Spurs may not risk him. But you think already that's a worrying sign. He's an injury-prone player. That how big of we talked about Bissouma, but Madison for me is key to that system as well. So if he starts missing games, and if you look at without Harry Kane, Son as we say is not at his best anymore. Richarlison's not scoring goals. You'd see Madison as one of the main source of goals, if not scoring them, assisting them. So it's vital to keep him fit. But it looks already like he's picked up a knock. So would that be a worry moving on to Saturday for Spurs if Madison's missing? Who replaces that creativity?
I would give actually Bournemouth a chance, to be honest, if Madison's not fit. So, because you don't have goal scorers either, and he's the creative spark then for set pieces. So, I'll go for a wee bit of a humble for Spurs. I'll go for a 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. Arsenal take on Fulham, first of the 3 o'clock games. Arsenal pretty strong at home usually. So, do you expect any surprises here?
Nah, Fulham look poor. Brentford dispatched them easy last Saturday as well. I know they're playing well, but I'd be shocked if Arsenal didn't get another 1-3 out of 3 for Arsenal.
Yeah. Brentford take on Palace. Now, Brentford absolutely flying start the season. Draw against Spurs, beat Fulham quite convincingly away from home. And this is all with Ivan Toney's interview during the week. So don't seem to be missing Ivan Toney too much at the minute. I do think they will miss him at some stage. But Brentford showing they're not just a one-man team and that they can find solutions. Mbuemo stepped up, Vissa stepped up. Do you think Brentford will continue their good form this weekend?
I think so. It just goes to show you Thomas Frank's a top coach. Palace, they done all right. They battered Sheffield in the first week, so look, it'll probably a bit more of an open game. So you would expect Palace to actually do a wee bit better, but you seen last night, they don't, when it comes to, you know,
Brentford's quite a strong home team, but aren't they?
I know. To be fair, it's, and then you look at last night. Palace didn't really have that. No one. They had Arsenal come back, and they didn't really have any answers. So I don't know. I'll probably just go for a 2-0 Brentford.
Brentford won. Now huge game in this year. 19th or 20th taking on 19th. Worrying signs again for Everton. Just don't look like they're going to score a goal. You know, again, very few deals done in the transfer market. Problems with money, and the negativity just surrounds this club at the minute. And Wolves, who, you know, the spirits are up after the United game, but they were brought back down to earth against Brighton. Two teams I foresee struggling this year. But do you think this is a bigger game for Everton being at home? And, you know, if they really lose this, they a team that's sort of going to be in and around them, that, you know, it might be one season too many?
I think it's a must-win game for everyone, because I remember at the start of the season there, Mersh saying before they kicked off against Fulham, well, this is even though it's only the first game and kind of you're thinking, oh, there's 37 more to go. It was a massive game for Everton home. Their home form kept them up the last 2 seasons. So if they start losing these games at home, it's looking really, really bleak for them. I tipped them to go down this year. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Liverpool fan, but they've been flirting with it for too long. If Wolves go and beat them at Saturday, I'd say it's nearly a foregone conclusion already, to be honest, because they'll probably end up sacking Dyche at some stage, and they have to. The home form keeps them up, and if they don't have that,
I don't think a change of manager is going to do much for them. I don't think they have the quality, and I think that they probably got the best man down there equipped for the job, unless they want to go back to Big Sam. But Big Sam's come in the last 2 times and hasn't really worked out at West Brom and at Leeds. I know Leeds was only in for 4 games, but kind of sense that Big Sam's days of getting teams out of trouble are over. So probably got the best man equipped for the job. How do you see it going, Cal?
I'll go 0-0. There's no quality here. I would stand 0-0. Can't really
You'll not be watching.
A full score, I'll watch.
Man United taking on Notts Forrest. Big game for United as well. If they have to try and kill some of the noise around this negativity. Forest, I think Forest are a very different team at home and away. You know, they only got 5 points last season away from home. They only won 1 game, 2 draws, and lost the other 16. They very much like Everton last season. Their home form kept them up. Do you see them going to Old Trafford and causing any problems?
I think United struggle when they have to pick a game to a team. They kind of, and Ten Hag enjoys it better when they can counter attack. So I do know I'll give Forest a chance just because of how United's playing. I'll go for a 2-0 Forest, because I just
2-0 Forest won.
I'll go for an upset.
Brighton take on West Ham in the 5:30 kickoff. Brighton absolutely flew out of the traps. A very, very good team. Again, the way this season started, they looks like they're going to repeat what they've done the last few seasons. Big players move on, but Brighton just keep getting stronger. Mitoma, again, I think it's going to be a player that's going to be sought after this time next summer. If he explodes, you know, he was good last season, but if he goes up on our level this year, we could be looking at another transfer record next summer. West Ham, you know, great one against Chelsea, but they really had to dig deep, and you know the Moyes tactics are going to be to sit back, defend, and it'll be all about Brighton trying to break them down. So how do you see this going?
I think Brighton's absolutely flying. I'll be shocked if they don't win this year, to be honest. I think it'll be a lot tighter because of the way the West Ham plays. So I'll go 2-0 Brighton, but it won't be as easy as that.
Moving on to Bank Holiday Sunday. Yes, a bank holiday for everyone this weekend. I think it's the last one day, Christmas, really. So whatever you're at on Sunday, enjoy it. And some good football they watch. Now, Burnley's playing Aston Villa. Now, that is not televised. That is moved due to Villa playing on the Thursday night. They're playing Hubs. Well, it's actually on Wednesday night, but it was scheduled to be a Thursday. They actually play Hubs away tomorrow. But Burnley take on Aston Villa. Burnley didn't play last weekend, of course, for that rescheduled game against Luton. They still be confirmed. The only time we've seen them was that 3-0 defeat at home to Man City. Now, probably can't read too much on that, playing the best team in the country. Villa were humbled by Newcastle, but they did come roaring back with that 4-0 win against Everton. So how do you see this going? Probably tough to call.
I was just going to say that's a tough one, because the way Burnley played against Man City, they went man for man. They kind of have that high intensity, high press, and Villa struggle with that. against Newcastle. They got thumped, so really, really difficult. And they look open at the back, but then they were comfortable against Everton, but who wouldn't be at the minute? So go for 2-1 Aston Villa.
2-1 Aston Villa. Sheffield United take on Man City. That's a 2 o'clock TV game. Now Sheffield, well, they've lost their 2 games, but they've been very tight. Scorelines probably were deservedly losing both of them. I thought Forest were a better team, and I thought Palace were a better team against them. But it's kind of shown that they'll at least give themselves a chance in games. Man City, well, what can you say about this team we haven't said before? Anyway, Sheffield United can stop them.
Nah, I can't see that. I'd be very, very shocked if Sheffield got a result. 3-0 City. I think Sheffield are down along with Luton.
Yeah. And Everton, you've nailed your front for you're in free or down already.
That's I'm going early. That's my free. Will come back to me.
Now the feature game of the weekend's the final game. Newcastle against Liverpool. Big games keep coming. We've seen, Chelsea, Liverpool. We've seen Spurs, United. Now we've seen Man City, Newcastle, and now we're seeing Newcastle, Liverpool. I think the fact that Newcastle now have sort of, it's sort of like the big 7 now, and I think Brighton will be having something to say about maybe making it a big 8 if they keep doing what they're doing. But it just creates even more of these big games. Newcastle were so strong at home against Villa. There's something probably similar to Liverpool. I think St James's Park's going to have that atmosphere this year where they're going to be very tough to beat at home. Fans are buzzing. Liverpool struggled away at Chelsea after that good start, but they'll get a good one against Bournemouth. Nicely set up this game. I think it's going to show you where both teams are at. Liverpool didn't. They were edged out of the 4th place by Newcastle last year, so they'll want to put a marker down. They did actually beat Newcastle twice last year, but Newcastle have strengthened. Some might say Liverpool have too, but they still haven't sorted that defensive midfield position out. Do you think this game could be where Liverpool get exposed against another top team? Could that midfield be found out?
If there's any team's going to do it, in Newcastle, but I actually think whenever you went away to them in February, they feared this, to be honest. And they got the first goal, and then obviously Pope, Red Yard, and all the rest of it. They were actually the better team in when they went down to 10 men. They kind of battered us, to be honest. But
I fancy goals in this game.
There's going to be goals. Both teams they scored an absolute certainty. Really tough to call. Newcastle strong at home. I'm trying not to be biased, to be honest, but I don't know.
Would you take a draw?
Right now, I would take a draw because I think we'll probably end up starting maybe Endo and the likes of that. We don't know how he's going to be, and really, really difficult. I'll go for it. I'll go for a 3-2 Liverpool for a thriller.
3-2 Liverpool. I'll give you my predictions in the end game on Thursday when I'm back on. Callum, going to give you a final chance to revise your top 4 predictions for the season. I think you went Man City first, Arsenal second, Liverpool third, and United fourth. Have you any changes to that? Or are you happy enough for your predictions?
No, I think, as I said earlier on the podcast, there was one team I was struggling to place, and it was Newcastle, because I didn't know how they're going to be. I'll change it. I'll go first 2 stay the same, Man City, Arsenal, and then I'll go for Newcastle third, Liverpool fourth.
Right. First man, they change his predictions, but if you fancy something, you have to go for it. Callum, thanks very much for coming on. I want to thank everybody for their comments. It's been a great show. Nearly done an hour and a half there. There was just so much to get through. I'm going to be back on Thursday looking at these games in more depth, also covering some more of them transfer stories I would expect. There's plenty of movement now in the next week. Callum, I think we're going to have you back on for the transfer deadline day special. We might get you. You might have a bit more worries about Liverpool if they haven't done any more business. But as I said, thanks everyone for their comments. I've got another one here coming on. Jamie sent great show, lads. Thanks very much, Jamie. Thanks for your input. I want to thank everyone for their input, and make sure if you haven't already done it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. Callum, thanks very much, mate, and I'll see you soon.
No worries. See you soon, Matt.